The living room, where the family meets to discuss issues, any issue which may be bothering one of the family members. That's what we do each and every Tuesday from 7 to 8 p.m. on WAC 90.1 FM with Ricardo Mitchell and DJ Aaron 868. We have casual conversations on serious topics, from sports to culture, mental health to economics, relationships to life lessons. Join us each and every Tuesday from 7 to 8 p.m. on WAC 90.1 FM. The Living Room, casual conversations on serious topics.
It is currently a couple minutes after 6 p.m. Why this dog anyway? It is currently Welcome to the living room with yours truly, DJ Aaron 868. I'm always great and I'm never late, alongside my neighbor's dog.
Brownie?
With
Ricardo Mitchell, the social stage on the local stage.
Right. And apparently the dog wanted to say the opening prayer that we normally start with, which goes a little like this. Must give thanks and praises to the Almighty for granting us the gift of life and seeing another day. No matter what time of day it is, you must always
give thanks.
Secondly, must say thank you to the man, Tony Prescott, for the past 3 hours of radio. And the P this week stands for?
Pipe. Because this week we get in pipe. Budget bro. So yeah, leaving that right there.
Next week we'll get into that. Yeah. Who had to hang the hat this week?
It's you, actually. I had somebody in mind to hang my hat with. If I could have.
You sure it's you?
No, it's you to hang your hat this week.
You sure it's me?
I'm pretty certain.
Who you hang your hat for last week?
Well, look, you're trying to put me on the spot and make my song old, boy. Who I hang my hat for last week? Last week wasn't the week when I hang my hat for... No, I wiped my feet last week, boy. I wiped my feet last week on all amateur and semi-amateur and semi-pro musicians who does be banging music. So, you know what? Yeah, I will hang my hat this week very gladly, very willingly. I went to the ID card office in San Fernando.
Well, I remember, I hear that now, please.
Somebody overdue or what?
Yeah, boy.
Yeah. The 10 years was fly. And listen, there was a gentleman, security officer on site named Davey. Listen, this man was polite, efficient. He was going above and beyond in terms of making sure that people were well informed and the process ran smoothly. You know what I'm telling you? This gentleman made me feel proud to utilize one of our government services. I want to hang my hat to Davey, security at the immigration at the ID card office, in Manipur, because and workers like him who make a otherwise tedious situation endurable and even enjoyable. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to see somebody who represented customer service and our national services in such a professional and polite manner. It was truly, truly a pleasure. It lifted my spirits. So I want to hang my hat. So to the Davies out there who put in any work.
Nice, man. Which leads me to wipe my feet. I don't wipe my feet first. To myself to remember to put on a hat.
Right.
Shoe. How to protect the bald head. Anyhow, I had to wipe my feet this week to the citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago. All you have a little decorum now. Yes, businesses are open. Yes, we all need certain supplies. But that don't mean you had to jam up on the person in front of you like if you're trying to thief a wine. We are still in the midst of a pandemic. Physical distancing is important. Don't physically distance yourself to thief a wine from me.
You at least get him a name?
Introduce the guest, please. Please, quickly. Like, no.
Listen, it's my pleasure to have in the living room this evening a mental health professional, Miss Ayanna Bertrand Charles. Right? She's a trained counselor and civil mediator and educator. She's a wife and a mother, and she is the founder of the Calm Harbor. I tip my hat. I salute, round of applause, every form of ovation possible to this woman and her service in the mental health arena. Right? And she's here this week to talk to us about a very serious topic.
Yeah. And this is how we kick off our annual Mental Health Month tribute. We had to start hot.
Correct is right.
So let's in from the mezzanine.
From the mezzanine.
We really had to bring in a special person to join us in today's conversation. And it's as easy as ABC. Could I call you that? Just easily?
Yes.
You've
My students call me Miss ABC actually. So there you go.
Years, I don't know. I felt like I discovered that years ago, and I was like, "Hey, ABC, well, look at that. That'll make for good branding." And
it would.
Now Aaron say it on air before me. The students doing it already.
Yes, stick.
So it is good.
Sure, and they still say that, or that was our generation thing.
Sticking?
Yeah.
I think it's our generation.
I think this generation more about the GT than sticking, yes. But anyway.
Yeah.
That's a whole other conversation. So guys, we just calling it as it is. We already said before that this is Mental Health Month. And we are getting down and dirty into this topic. Right? Just to give a little context, the word, if you see vacation, you're seeing vaccine.
Right. Yeah. So that meme pop up a couple times talking about, and people just running off.
Right?
Yeah.
And the two most paired together words that we hear now are vaccine hesitancy. But today we are here to discuss, as we said before, therapy hesitancy. And I will kick it off with a very simple question. I think this will be the easiest question in tonight's conversation. Is there such a thing as therapy hesitancy?
100%. 100%, and especially in Trinidad and Tobago.
She said, especially in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes. People are very, very hesitant to go to therapy. And there's so many reasons why. One of the main reasons is the misconception that therapy is really for people who are crazy or who have mental problems, right? Which is not true. I mean, anybody can go to therapy. You don't have to have any major issues, any major diagnosable issues. You could wake up one morning and just feel a little dissatisfied with life, or you may realize that you're bored or you're stuck. Something as simple as that. You can go to therapy for. You don't have to have intense feelings of depression, or you don't have to have maybe a bipolar disorder, or you don't have to have something that's a little more serious to go to therapy. But people think that therapy is for people who are mad. That's what they say in Trinidad. Crazy people go to therapy.
You had to have your papers.
Yeah, yes. That's why you're going to therapy. So that's a really big misconception. So that means that a lot of people who might benefit from therapy don't go because they think to themselves, I don't actually really need it. I don't need it, because they've turned it into, something that's really specific to one type of thing. And that's just not true.
So let me say it in Trini terms, right? We shouldn't wait until the red flag, the size of the national flag in Macoya, right, waving right in front of the face for us to go and seek help.
Yeah.
You hear that, Ricardo?
But you see, part of the problem also is that we don't like to seek help because we feel like we should be handling our business ourselves. So we don't want to seek help. We think that it's weak to seek help. We think that,
W would come out early in the sentence.
Yeah, the W would come out one time in front of the ABC,
people people think that it's a sign of weakness for you to ask for help, and it's a sign of weakness or something is wrong with you. And our society has sort of set it up the way we are as a people.
Yeah.
Our national personality has set it up for us to not go to therapy. So, for example, we are a gossipy country. We like to know people's business, right? And we like to share people's business too. So one of the reasons why people are hesitant to go to therapy is because they are unsure that they will hear their stories told on the outside, that somebody will find out. That if this therapist knows somebody that I know, then they will, secretly go and tell this person what's going on with me. So I'm not going to tell this person. So we don't trust the concept of confidentiality in Trinidad because we love to talk about each other's business.
There's something that's coming to mind here. So similar to how there's doctor-patient confidentiality, there's therapist-patient confidentiality as well?
Absolutely. So you are not allowed to talk about what goes on in a session with anybody else. As a matter of fact, sometimes if the court wants a therapist to come to court, sometimes you need to contact the client and say, listen, the court wants me to go, if I have to go, what can I say? Sometimes therapists will write a general sort of letter to the court, but they won't give specifics of the session unless, it is mandated. It is absolutely necessary for this case. So there's a lot of stuff that protects people. So really, you should not be afraid of your therapist, because your therapist or your counselor should not be discussing anything unless, of course, you talk about the fact that you are going to kill somebody, or you're talking about the fact that you've abused a child. These are things that you cannot keep confidential, right? There are certain things, if you find out that a child is being abused, you need to report it.
Okay. So,
right? So there are certain conditions under which confidentiality can be broken. But by and large, what is said in a therapy session should be kept with the strictest of confidence.
So life harming?
Yes.
Or child harming?
Yeah, or if you're going to kill somebody, if you lay out to me that you're going to kill Ricardo and you tell me that you have it planned, you're planning to cut him up and put him in a barrel, then I need to protect Ricardo and you from yourself.
It just have way too many opportunities to go inappropriate to that. And it's a sensitive topic, so I'll try to be here. But
please do.
Yeah, I'll be behaving this
I'm
evening.
begging.
I'll be stop threatening my Aaron. I'll be behaving.
I'm not threatening. I'm begging.
Yeah, it could go bad.
But in addition to confidentiality being a reason why people are hesitant to go to therapy, we in addition to being gossipy, we give each other names based on our behavior. So nobody wants to go to therapy to get a name that they will be called forever, right? Crazy man, yeah, you don't know he went to therapy the other day, yeah man, that man crazy. You know what I mean? Like, people give each other nicknames based on things that are going on in their lives, right? So people don't necessarily, so that's why I say that this society kind of sets us up. You don't want people to know. You don't want people to know you're going, because people will assume certain things about you and they will insensitively interact with you upon the basis of that. So there's also that. You know, and we give each other a lot of peekong. This is a society where peekong is a big thing. So if you were to go and, you know, tell some, you know, people in your lives, I'm going to therapy or whatever, you know, you don't know. You might hear that down the road.
Yeah.
People laughing and saying, hey, how your therapy session going? Like it's not working. You know what I mean? Things like that.
Yeah.
Your partner might throw it back at you.
I'm not going to say that. Yeah, our peekong balance prevents participation in therapy.
Yes.
Great alliteration. I realized you were going for psychotherapy and realized you would have lost it. It only started with P. It don't sound like P, but well done, sir. Well done.
Thank you.
You know,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that.
One...
Great minds, right? Great minds think alike. I was just throwing in quickly that that creates a scenario where you might be going to a therapist, see your partner car park up in the car park and drive past and cancel your appointment because you don't want them to realize that you're going by the therapist.
Correct.
So instead of seeing that, listen, somebody in a position that I'm in, we're seeing someone for something we want to address and getting comfort in the fact that, hey, listen, it's not me alone in this thing. We're actually hiding from the very same people who getting the very same help.
Yep. What I was going to say is that also, and this is more for the older heads, but historically, privacy was really important because you had to keep your good name in the community. And so when things happened, you know, it was very important that your business wasn't put out on the street. So Granny would know all kinds of things are happening, but go to a therapist, tell somebody our business. You know what I mean? Our business is private. That's for our house. You know, so in that way also, if you grow up with that kind of messaging, then you think to yourself, I don't want to tell anybody what's going on. It's a secret. I have to keep this privacy. Nobody must know, you know? So people protect all kinds of things, abuse, honing, incest, all kinds of things in the name of keeping the privacy because you don't want your neighbors to know or you don't want your friends to know because you have to keep some kind of, you know, status, some position, some moral position.
You see that? I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have in society today. We have normalized so many ills, so many societal ills that honing is, as people say, honing is not a natural part of the relationship. Abuse is deemed natural.
I'm looking for that heat.
Well, I don't know about natural, but it's...
Look,
I think normalized.
That's normal.
Yeah, I realize that's where you're going with it too, because the secrecy has allowed what was problematic to become quietly acceptable and to some degree expected. Because now something that would have been a deal breaker, you have a threshold for. Because, oh gosh, that's just part of the thing.
Right.
Yeah, that's can see that helping, no?
I want to ask something here for the male listeners, for my brethren them.
Them fella them there.
Yeah, them boy them down the road now, you understand? Yeah. One of the main attributes of being a man in today's world is the ability to suppress their feelings. Is this healthy?
It's not healthy for anybody to suppress their feelings. But because society says that men shouldn't have feelings or shouldn't express feelings, then we see it as being problematic, particularly for men. So society says that men need to be tough and they need to be independent and they need to be stoic, you know, unemotional. And so men grow up thinking that they should not, because to be manly means that you don't express your emotions. As a matter of fact, to be manly means you don't even have emotions because you're not even supposed to be affected. You're not even supposed to be affected by things, you know? So it is a problem. It is a problem because suppressing your emotions come with a certain amount of energy. And when you suppress that energy, or when you fail to acknowledge your emotions, it doesn't remove the emotion, you know? So the emotion stays inside there building up. And eventually, as it continues to build, then is when you have like outbursts and you have overreactions and you have men acting in hostile and aggressive and volatile ways. It's because they have not expressed or processed their emotions in a calm, rational way. The emotion has, the energy from the emotion has to come out. So when you suppress it, you're just creating a boiling system that eventually has to explode.
There's a graphic, Ricardo, that I'm gonna send for you that I'd like for you to put up now.
Sure.
And it just sums up everything Ayanna just said. Allow yourself to feel. Fellas. Well, Erica.
And the thing about it is that when you don't, suppressing your emotions means that eventually also you get out of touch with your emotions. So sometimes you're so out of touch with it, you can't even identify it. You're not even recognizing it. You can't name it. You're not feeling it. And that has all kinds of consequences, not to mention actual health consequences, right? Mm-hmm. Because when you keep that in, you end up with high blood pressure, which could lead to, all manner of diseases, all manner of illnesses. You could end up with heart disease and such like, and research has borne that out. Plus, if you can't identify your own emotions and you can't express your own emotions, how do you have relationships with people? How do you have functional friendships? How do you have functional intimate partner relationships? How do you function at work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you can't even identify and express your emotions. So I mean, that's a problem. And suppressing it also leads to bigger issues like anxiety and depression. So now you start to have different kinds of mental health issues, all as a result of suppressing emotions. So it's really unfortunate that society has set it up for men in particular to not. And I mean, we even as mothers, on one hand, we may baby our boys, and then on the other hand, the father to kind of counteract that is, a little harder. Or sometimes we even buy into the hype, so the child cries and we're like, stop crying, what you crying for? You have nothing to cry for, stop the nonsense. Or the child may be feeling a particular way and you say, you're not really feeling that. You know what I mean? You're not really feeling that. Or don't worry about it. You kind of negate the feeling. And so boys grow up learning not to be able to name their emotions, not being able to express their emotions. And then they get into relationships and people want them to talk and express and, open up their hearts and whatever. And it just doesn't happen.
So
it doesn't happen.
20 years of our lives we hearing, stop crying, man don't cry, why you getting on so for? Is attention, man up, right?
Yeah.
And
don't
then don't study that. Yeah, right?
Let me take a drink and move on.
Yes.
Yeah, right. And then we expected to be vulnerable and communicative and understanding.
Right.
With training that was contrary to that expectation.
Absolutely.
Right. So now
but also, in all fairness, I also want to say that sometimes women don't necessarily want their men to be that expressive, because that's also on the flip side. Some women are like, oh God, this man, he crying again, or he want to sit down and have a long talk, and
she just looking for peace, right? You listen.
Some women are not interested because it doesn't seem manly.
Mm.
So even while we're training men to not have emotions, we're also training women to not expect emotions from men. And so sometimes when a man is, in all fairness, expressing how he feels about something, the woman is like,
Yeah.
So women are asking men to be emotionally intelligent and
Correct.
Emotionally aware.
Yes.
But then some women, you had to tone it down to a certain level.
So
I could only be 10% aware and
correct.
expressive. Just 10%.
they're not so emotionally intelligent that you're ahead of the class, you know. Just like middle of the class, you know, you don't have to come home with no prize, but you ain't getting held back either. So,
This is
most women want men who are aware of their emotions, who can manage their emotions, who can understand other people's emotions as well, and can interact with sensitivity and control and such like.
you had to be able to turn it on and off, though. Sorry, but yeah, you had to be able. You know what? Emotional intelligence is supposed to be a tool that we could use accordingly.
Yes.
Right? If it's a default setting, well, then I could see why there would be unmet expectations from both parties.
Right.
Right? Because honestly, not every situation requires a let's have a discussion to navigate this. Sometimes you want an immediate response. You want an action. It could be protective. It could be in decision making and definitive. What I'm saying is that there are times you just want a decision made or action taken. And so we expect it to be able to know when to do that, but also to be able to know when to, all right, listen, here we're going on. We running on this thing and it's going to spoil. So let me stop. You take a 5, I take a 5, and let me continue this conversation.
And that's what emotional intelligence is. And that's what we should be teaching in schools. How do you identify? How are you aware? How do you manage? How do you interact with people in an emotionally intelligent way?
Yeah, I definitely had to learn the balance because I would have swing from one end to the other. It was a case of, listen, I empathetic, you know, I get what you're feeling and I understand where you're coming from, and I could probably help you understand how you're feeling better than you could help yourself, because I am unbiased, but I recognize that's something that has happened when you spend enough time in different vicarious situations and counseling, that type of thing. Is you learn to recognize feelings that somebody don't know how to express themselves. And that's a lot of what this is. Therapy is about getting that help to recognize, identify, and address.
Correct. Right? Your own thinking patterns, your own emotions, your behaviors, etc. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in a certain way, they're not gonna. Well, a professional would not treat a situation the way a partner might treat it. Or you
should not. Wow.
Right? Yeah. So we have, you know what? Well, I just talk to this one. And others feel better after. But you know what? You might not actually be doing anything to heal. That person might just be holding trauma and holding drama. And then when they can't take load again, because they don't know how to process, they don't know how to manage, they start ducking your calls. Then you realize that this person pushed you away because it was coming on too heavy, so you don't want to open up to the next person. And there are cycles of behavior and relationship and crisis that we end up in. Sometimes just because we didn't go by the mechanic, we wait until the tire flat and the car break down.
But that's so true, and that's another reason why people don't go to therapy, you know, because they think they could just go to their friend or their pastor or their pundit or somebody
or Dr. Google,
read a book, read a self-help book, and I'm not saying self-help books are not helpful. But so they don't even see the need to really go. They don't see the need to go to a whole therapist and pay money on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
When I could just go on vent.
Let me be real. Sorry, but let me be real. If we're talking about therapy hesitancy, we had to mention the financial factor.
Absolutely.
We had to mention the financial factor. Right? If you had to buy a transmission, you know that is money that you had to put on for this thing to continue working the way it's supposed to be working.
$1,500.
$1,500?
Yeah.
For a transmission?
Depending on the car, you could get one just that cheap. The same way that if you access these services through, let's say, TT Connect, you may be able to access it for free or through social services. There are free counseling sessions available.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Just have to throw that in there.
Yeah, sense.
They are.
You know, so yeah, I don't want to we'll beat the ant's nest and then we don't do anything about it. So in terms of, all right, I can't afford therapy, right? Is there, I don't want to say a preventative measure, you know, but I have curated a social media and a personal space that has positive, encouraging, motivating content, stuff that will help me process and recognize emotion and social situations and that type of thing. Are there things that the average Joe, the man on the street, the woman on the street could do to, at least buffer themselves a little bit? Because you're not seeking therapy, but then again too, you don't have to be staring into the abyss for want of a
Yeah.
right?
there are a lot of free resources out there. There are a lot of therapists who have resources on their websites, articles. There are people who do free workshops. There are a lot of people who do free workshops that talk about strategies that you can learn about, but you have to be, on top of things. Even something as simple as a TED Talk, a good book. They have workbooks. Amazon, they have tons of workbooks that you can start to work through things on your own. They have a workbook for everything. They have a workbook for depression, a workbook for anxiety, a workbook for divorce, a workbook. You know what I mean? So if you can't get to a therapist, you can do things like that. You can fill your mind with positive things, and you can read up and learn strategies. YouTube has tons of things that will help you, that can teach you strategies. They have free meditation guides. So many things that you can do on your own to kind of hold yourself down in the meantime.
Yeah. I'm definitely an advocate for having these spaces around me where I could access information. I have way more friends who are therapists and counselors than I thought. And
Right.
Luckily for me, I could do things like just scroll through my Instagram, and between Debbie Bertrand, she's a educational psychologist that I done some mentorship work with. You, Ayanna, right? Calm Harbor. Anybody ask, I sending them Calm Harbor. I say, listen, just follow on Facebook, follow the Calm Harbor TT on Instagram. But you put content out there that trains your thoughts. It points you in a direction. Right, then there's JL, right? There's Tita pages. There are so many places and spaces that you could, just access some content that could point you in a direction too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Aaron, I realize you're pondering there.
No. I'm just listening to the pages.
All right, nice. Well, I'll also put them up.
Yeah, so I know I'm following the Calm Harbor, and yeah, some of the posts that you did recently guided me through a very rough patch there. So yeah.
Oh, nice.
Wait, I don't want to be this guy, but let me talk about the rough patches. Right? Let's talk about the rough patches for a second, because it's not every problem that you're going to be in the workplace. It's not every problem you have going to be peer pressure, etc. Some of it is relationship. Right? And realize I want to talk here about in relationships, most men don't feel comfortable going for couples counseling, right? As they're afraid that the counselor would attribute the issues to toxic masculinity and that type of thing. They would just default, is the man fault now, right? I don't know, are all issues addressed in marital and relationship counseling?
Before we even pose the question, I want to draw reference to a book that I read, where a very prominent couple
on the reading thing.
Wow. Yeah, a very prominent couple. The wife suggested that they go for counseling. Mm-hmm. And when they got to the session, she listed all the problems, everything. He this, he that, he whatever. And then the counselor looked at her and was like, they addressed those issues. And when she was done, they were done addressing the issue. She was like, okay, sis, so what about you? What issues are you having? And the woman was like, no, he don't have no issues. She's like, whoa, I didn't allow him to speak. And I wouldn't list who the couple was, but they are a very prominent African-American couple in the US of A.
Yeah. All right, sir. All right, yeah, we don't want to get caught up in any entanglements.
Right?
Let's just say it's not becoming.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow. Subtle, Aaron.
Okay.
Sort of like a
Wow.
sledgehammer. So yeah,
Wow.
Sometimes you just had to drive the point home.
Damn.
yeah. So there's are both sides of the issue addressed in couples counseling, or is it just am I going to end up spending money to hear that everything is my fault and I could steal man hear that for free? What I'm saying,
if you go to somebody who is trained in therapy, then that should never happen.
Yeah.
That should never happen, because problems in a couple could never just be one person's fault. And it's also the way that people interact, because as you interact with your partner, you develop a kind of script, a kind of pattern, a way of being with each other that feeds off of each other over time. So there are always two contributors. That being said, one might be the more overt contributor, the more obvious contributor. But
it is take two to tango.
It does.
Listen, I'd made a silent bet in my head that if she only say, ladies, some of this is our fault or we have to take responsibility, it would have been the single tear on the down my cheek, I would have blamed it on garlic and onion. I would have blamed it on the event, but I would have said that thing.
No, you would have got standing ovation.
Right. Because I'm not calling anybody out, but what I'm saying is literally today, I was just back. Well, then, you know what? 2 days before we are airing this episode, I was in a conversation with a couple, and I was going through the whole, casual conversation thing, but it came around to they navigating conversations and conflict. And both good at what they do and how they do it, lovely couple. And the gentleman still resorted to ending the majority of conversations with, you know what, you're right. And
But how is that healthy though?
the talk got done.
Because it's not right, but it's not truthful. It's not truthful. If you are saying what you need to say to keep the peace, then you're not being honest about your own feelings, your own needs, your own wants, your own anger, your own whatever. So if you're yes there, no there, whatever you say there, you're right there. I mean, I get it, huh? I get it.
I ready to break the internet here. All right.
But,
listen, Ayanna, could you give us men who have problems with vulnerability, communication, and understanding? Could you give us 2 or 3 tips as to how to say, well, girl, you're wrong, Could you help us find a way to not have to resort to...
No, Ricardo, don't come out and say girl, you're wrong.
No.
Say, babe, I don't agree with the point you're putting across.
You know what? I want, Aaron, you're totally undermining me asking her to say it.
Well, I don't like when my husband does that either, because it gets me defensive.
Thank you. This is why I want you, Ayanna, to help us find our way to see. I mean,
you're talking...
Maybe you could say, babe, I want you to consider this for a moment. It mightn't be, fully true, but this is how I'm kind of experiencing things at the moment. That you tend to be and I just want you to think about it for a while. Think about it and see if there might be, some truth, because it's very easy for couples to get into that defensive place. And men complain about it all the time. That woman can't be told anything. You can't tell her anything.
Sorry, I just look. Aaron pan left, yes. No, the thing is, we joking, because this is part of this how we rapport. But the thing is, all talks aside, I don't think it have a way to say, well, babe, I do agree that you're wrong, and I'm not going to just back down so we stop quarreling. I mean, Aaron suggested that what sounded like a very reasonable way of saying, I can't agree with what it is you're saying. And you acknowledge that even hearing that and for some people, that's a full trigger. Not even marginally offensive, that's a full trigger right there. Right? Because now you don't agree with me, that means you're not supportive, and there's a problem I had with you that I can't come to you with anything, or everything that's had to be your way, and all of a sudden you going from, all I'm saying is that I prefer my chicken pan seared than oven baked, and it had to turn into a whole case of all my character flaws. What I mean is, how can we have this healthier rapport when our partner is sometimes not as receptive to being corrected as we come across or have to be? Help.
I can't. I don't know that I could really give you the secret. I don't have that secret.
I know 11 herbs and spices for this one.
I don't have it. I don't have the secret. But it's hard. It's hard to hear. It's hard to hear when your partner tells you that you're wrong. But it is worse if they use words like, girl, you stupid or what?
Right.
Or you are wrong. I mean, really, ego-wise, we should be able to hear you are wrong and not collapse. Mm-hmm. Okay, but it's hard. It's hard for many people, men too, to hear you are wrong. I know you all are complaining about females, but I could say the same thing for men. Men who believe that they shouldn't have to ask because manliness is knowing and asking is not manly. Come on, Aaron, that is the truth.
Aaron,
you're looking at me with skepticism, but men
those are the Aaron.
That they don't know or that they're wrong. They say, all right now.
No. I hear. Oh gosh, give me a chance.
Yeah. So I think it's a problem. I think it's a communication issue, and it's tough. But what is worse is not saying and just giving in to your partner all the time. Sometimes you just have to be willing to have the fight and, go your own separate ways to cool down and come back. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to just deal with the hurt feelings after, because it's really not fair to not say when you're upset. It's not fair on you to not say when you're upset. And if one person is always giving in to the other person, then that is going to lead to some serious problems down the line.
Now, we are getting a little bit close to 7 p.m., right? So we just have a couple questions to throw out there. Again, we all know, and again, I'm just using the example here, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is the one shot and done. Right?
Like you just by doing everything possible for Facebook to not run the video, for YouTube to say we're not talking about therapy hesitancy.
Yeah.
You using all the flag words are gonna make them bleep and edit with it. Anyway, you know what? Go ahead. Let me let you finish. Sorry. I was just expressing myself. Sorry.
So one and done.
Right. Is counseling or therapy a one and done thing?
No.
Well, it really depends on why you go. You can go for a reason, have an amazing therapeutic session, gain insight, and you could take it from there. You can run with what you learned in that one session, and you could be cool. You know what you need to do. You are focused. You do it. Things get better. Most times, however, it requires a couple sessions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now I can say, based on that first part of the answer, I did not expect that. I just expected it'll take a couple of sessions.
Well, it really depends on what you're coming for. Most times it takes a couple of sessions, but sometimes you may just be coming because you need a little bit of clarity about something. You may need just a little bit of, focusing to understand what you want from a situation, and then you go and you make a decision and you're fine.
So if we're using the mechanic reference, then it's not every time you go there by the mechanic, you're looking to change out your whole engine and do over your exhaust. Sometimes you just need a little lining or rotate a tire or.
Correct.
You went from changing engine to rotating a tire?
No, what I'm saying is sometimes you don't need a whole overhaul.
Yeah, you don't.
I know, but you could have used something a little more linked.
No, that's the whole point, Aaron. That is not a whole systemic situation.
They could have changed a spark plug.
But on average, people go, from 3 to 8. Some people are in therapy for years. It depends on the approach. So, for example, somebody who might be more Freudian, who has a more, psychodynamic approach, you're going back, looking at your childhood in great detail and all kinds of things. That takes a while. There are people who are in therapy consistently for years. But then again, sometimes you may go to therapy every week for, say, maybe 8 weeks or 10 weeks. And then, the therapy is terminated because you've met your goal, you feel empowered. But sometimes you may want to come back every so often for a checkup. Sometimes clients will call, you haven't seen them, you haven't heard from them for 6 months or a year, and they'll call just for a little refresh session.
All right.
Yeah.
So all of these things are possible. Sometimes you don't hear from somebody. So for example, I didn't hear from someone for 2 years, and then they called just for a little quick 2 sessions, and then they were gone again. You know what I mean? Because remember, the purpose of therapy is not to keep you, it's to get you out. The purpose of therapy is to empower you to live the kind of life that you want, so that you can go and live it, not so that you need to stay. So you stay, you work on your goals, you work on your behavior, your thinking or whatever, and then you go to live that life. And if you need to come back, then you come back.
So for the people who, again, suffering from therapy hesitancy, is not a coping mechanism. Ideally, therapy could be restorative. It could help you heal and you move on. Or at least you have better tools to go forward, because hey, what's going on? If I know I could come and say, listen, 6 to 12 sessions at this price, I could do that for 3 to 6, 6 to 8, 10 or 12 sessions, because I know that we working with our plan. Because you know what I think people think that if I have a therapist for life, and there's money I had to shell out every week or every month for the next however long. So,
but also sometimes if you can't afford to go every week, you can go every 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
You should. I think most therapists are understanding of the financial constraints.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they would tailor the sessions to suit.
You can go every 2 weeks if that is what, because there are things for you to work on sometimes in between sessions, right? So sometimes if you can't go every week, I mean, it's not that nothing is happening between sessions.
Yeah.
Things are happening between sessions. So yeah.
The hesitancy again. Homework is extremely important when you are in counseling or therapy. It is extreme. I can't stress it enough. This is where for the words homework is important.
And you gain that, and then whatever color you want.
What I will say is that not every therapeutic approach believes in homework. In that kind of, you need to sit down over the next week and, write down this or reflect on that or whatever. Not every approach believes that, you should be told what to do or guided into what to do. But there are many approaches that do give homework, yes.
Yeah, but the premise is not your therapist doing the lifting. They're helping you navigate.
Correct. Yeah. And the thing about it is you're not coming to me for advice. That's something that really is important, because when people don't go to therapists, they say, what I need to go by them to get advice for when I could go and ask so-and-so or so-and-so. Except that you're not really coming to me for advice. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here as a facilitator. I'm here as a guide. I'm here to, to show you a new way or to teach you a new strategy or something. I'm not here to tell you what to do and how to live your life. And that's really important because it places the onus on you. Your healing really comes from the amount of work that you are willing to put in. And that is why you should choose to come to therapy. So you won't find a therapist calling clients and saying, hey, I haven't seen you in a long time. How come you're not here? Or, you know what I mean? By and large, you don't run down your client because your client has to be motivated to do the work. Yeah. So if somebody says, oh, my niece needs counseling, call Hannah and set up a session with her. Never. A therapist would not call somebody and say,
you should come in.
Your aunt told me you need a session. Why don't come? You know what I mean? In an official capacity, that would not happen. You need to want to come. Now, that being said, you may have issues that your employer thinks need solving, and your employer might say, listen, your being here at work is contingent upon your going to therapy. We realize that you've been coming, smelling of alcohol every single day, and we think you need help. And they will send you, and it is mandated that you come.
And just to share some light here, that would be called a supervisory referral.
Right.
Yeah.
So then you may not actually want to come, but you're choosing to come because your supervisor says you have to come.
Yeah. Really quickly, do therapists go for therapy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I went to therapy just the other day. Yes. First of all, when you are studying to be a therapist, you have to do a certain number of hours of personal therapy. Most schools, not all, but most schools require that for you to graduate, you have to be in therapy. And you have to have done a certain number of hours of personal therapy before you could even graduate. So that's number one. And number two, yes, because we are people. We have issues, we have problems, and we don't always, we can't always work on ourselves in the same way. Sometimes we need another perspective.
Yeah.
So yeah, we go.
So hurt people. So if you want to help others heal, you got to be willing to do a little healing.
Willing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I need to work on my facial expressions, and seriously.
I am so glad we're doing this thing on video, on WAC, and on YouTube now, because Aaron, listen, anyway, all I'm saying is you seen it for yourself now. I don't want to tell you anything.
Yeah, boy.
I could just text
was
message you
that
and be like,
surprising to you, Aaron? Was that
minutes.
surprising?
No, it wasn't. No.
Aaron, you in the work environment you have you in an advisory capacity, I guess.
Yeah.
So
no, I'm not a counselor, or a therapist, just to put that out there. I am the entire accounts department for a company that does counseling and therapy.
I don't have a feeling we're not putting up that logo.
No,
we're not. All right, cool.
No. But we should invite them as a guest during this month. And I have been trained to handle basic counseling.
Yeah.
Right? So again, a cast stress is enough. Let's try to jump that hurdle of therapy hesitancy. Because a situation of what took place in Miami is not something that we want to happen again.
Right.
Parents, train your, I hate that word. Teach your sons to handle rejection.
Yeah.
Fellas, it's okay to seek help. Ladies, it's okay to seek help. There's no harm in saying, I don't know. Or there's no harm in saying, let me see a therapist.
And you know what? A lot of younger people, though, I notice people in their 20s and 30s are a lot more open than people my age in their 40s and 50s, a lot more open. It's okay for people to say, a lot of younger people are saying, I have a therapist, and it's almost like a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing now. It's a thing that I have a therapist, which I like, because when people are really open about going to therapy, it encourages people who maybe, hesitant to go, because it's no big deal. This friend goes to a therapist, that one goes to a therapist. Well, let me go, because why not?
Ayanna, I want to close with two really quick questions, right? First and foremost, we could contact you for, guidance, your services, etc. at the Calm Harbor TT on Instagram.
Yeah.
The Calm Harbor on Facebook.
Yes.
But what is your email address, and is there a contact number, or is just contact you via email and you could adjust according to suit?
Yes. So the email address is thecalmharbortt@gmail.com.
Okay.
So you write and we respond to you, and we make arrangements to do an intake interview and such like.
All right. Question, because it's 2021. How communicative are you on your Facebook and your Instagram? So if someone wants to catch you there and message you,
I think I'm fairly responsive.
All right. Cool. And I'm glad you say that, because you've just restored the trust that you freed when you mentioned, my age in 40s and 50s, because a little bit this way, right? This camera saying titties. So don't do that.
I'll take it.
Telling people my age, I was like, anyway. So most important question, and this is I gotta give DJ Aaron 868 full credit for this. Normally we start and open with it, but sometimes we end with it. How are you?
You mean generally in life?
However you move to answer.
I found myself a couple of days ago, just starting to feel like my brain was full. Because when you follow social media and you see all that's going on in the world, and you read comments under people's posts, and you have your own stresses with life and kids and work and money and all that, and I started feeling really overwhelmed. I started feeling like this world has gone to the dogs, and I just started feeling a little anxious, to be honest. That's how I was. But I sat down, I journaled. I believe in journaling. Just dump everything that's in your mind onto that piece of paper, and you kind of sometimes gain your own little clarity. I started praying. I started reading, some really encouraging scriptures. I started listening to stuff and planning fun things with my family, that should we remain open for Christmas, things that I could look forward to,
Right.
And that really helped. Just giving myself something to look forward to, something that was beautiful, something that brought me joy, that kind of thing. So now I'm much better. Yes, I'm good.
So glad to hear that. All right,
Yes.
guys. Aaron, we reach where we're going with this episode. All right.
The end?
I'm gonna take the liberty of saying this is Ricardo Mitchell, the social stage and the local stage, thanking you for joining us in the living room. So whatever you're doing, be good and stay safe. And therapy is not the big bad wolf.
It's not.
It is not the big bad wolf.
Do it for yourself.
Aaron?
Thank you very much, Ayanna, for
Thank
taking
you
the
for having
time
me.
and joining us inside the living room. I realize my fellow host didn't say thank you.
Dude, I hand it to you though. Teamwork, Aaron. Teamwork.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Thank you for having me. It was lovely.
Right. And I'll just end by saying this is yours truly, DJ Aaron 868. I'm always great and I'm never late. Reminding you that love is the currency. So spend some today. And this is me being totally transparent with you, the listeners of WAC 90.1 FM and the living room. I have accessed therapy and counseling. It does help and it does work. End with a song?
Well, before we end with the song, Ayanna, you have a closing for us? This is Ayanna, Bertrand, Charles, and nothing?
No.
We go work on that.
Actually, I need to work on that. I need to work on that.
Anybody want to say goodnight to?
I want to say goodnight to Trinidad and Tobago, and I want to say Trinidad and Tobago, do it for yourself. Do it. It's time. Go. It's wonderful.
Do it for yourself.
I believe in it. I believe in therapy. for myself and for everybody, to be honest.
Yeah. So the big band with Mr. Desmond?
Yeah.
But we just go to Mr. Desmond.
All right, cool. Go ahead now. Just go ahead. Desmond, take it over.